We'll call our February 16th meeting of the Cookeville City Council to order. Could we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Woodford.
Present.
Councilman Henry.
Here.
Mayor Shelton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Epps.
Here.
Councilman Womack.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by Jason Baugh, Associate Pastor and Director of Student Life at Life Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag.
You'll bow your heads with me, please. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you so much that we live in a city that still knows that your will and desire is paramount, Lord. I pray for all the men and women in this room this evening. I pray that you give them wisdom. I pray that you give them guidance. I pray that you give them the courage to make the decisions, Lord. I pray that your Holy Spirit will permeate throughout this room tonight, and that above all else, that your will be done, Lord. Bless this evening. In your name, amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
Mayor and council, we have no changes to the agenda.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 4A, presentation by Avery Trace Middle School Junior Beta Club Chaplain, Caden Webb, and I'll ask for Sarah Thomas from the Junior Beta Club of ATMS to come up and introduce.
Okay. First, I would like to say thank you so much for this opportunity and for allowing Caden to come in and practice his speech. He was elected by his peers in November across the state of Tennessee as the chaplain for our state for Junior Beta. He actually spoke in front of about 7,500 people then, and he campaigned. He did a great job. We're really proud of him. So in June, he is going to actually represent Avery Trace and the state of Tennessee at Orlando, and he's going to compete against one person from all the other states. Okay, so
Awesome.
Caden Webb, come on up.
Yes.
Whether it's your first pet, your first time riding a bike, your first roller coaster, or your first time at Disney World, there's a first time for everything. I remember when I first started Bible quizzing and I had to memorize over 230 Bible verses. And to be honest, I didn't think I could do it. But I worked hard to memorize the verses, and when it came time to compete, I scored the highest points in my first 2 games and got an all-tournament medal. This is also my first year in Beta Club, and the first year my Beta Club has been to the state and national convention. You see, in Beta Club, you're pushed to your limits. I had to get up and speak in front of over 7,500 people and campaign to get my name out there. But before that, I had to make my speech. I had so many errors in my first speech that I had to write an entirely different one. That speech got me to where I am today. First times are important. It's where memories are made. When I tried out for Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, people said that they would only pick 8th graders. I didn't care. I tried and acted my best and got the part. It really doesn't matter what people say. It's what you think about yourself. As a person, if you try, you build character. You become willing to do more things. If you choose me to be your beta chaplain, I will work hard and make sure that we are motivated in everything we do. Thank you.
Well, I think the 5 of us would agree. We'll just vote on that tonight. Let's just vote. that we want you to be our beta chaplain, okay? And we wish you well in your endeavors, and we'll look for you in about 10 or 12 years running for city council.
Absolutely,
and,
yeah.
Coming back up here, okay? Great. Come back and let us know how it goes, all right? Very good. All right, 4B, presentation of achievement received by the Water Quality Control Department for a perfect score from TDEC on the Cookeville water system. Ronnie Kelly.
Mayor and council, I wanted to share some news that with the council and the public that we recently received from TDEC concerning our water department. The City of Cookeville Water Department is pleased to announce that its water system has achieved a perfect score of 100% on its recent Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation Sanitary Survey. Survey covered the period of time from April 2015 to December 2016. The survey is an unannounced on-site evaluation and audit of the total operations and maintenance of a public water system by TDEC's Division of Water Supply Section. The 4-day survey inspected every facet of Cookeville's water system, including the complete operations, maintenance, safety programs, records, documentation, water treatment techniques, water quality testing, water distribution system, cross-connection, backflow prevention, engineering, equipment facilities, and construction procedures. Survey is set up on a 599-point system, and the department earned the total 599 points. We were notified of this perfect score in a letter to me dated December 28, 2016, from the Environmental Program Manager, Johnny Walker. We credit the perfect score to many factors, but largely attribute the department's employees' hard work and dedication to upholding the high standards needed to provide a safe drinking water source to our customers. Cookeville Water System processes water from Center Hill Reservoir and serves approximately 46,768 direct customers, along with 7 wholesale customers that include the City of Allgood, Baxter, Cookeville Boat Dock UD, Old Gainsboro Road UD, Bangham UD, Double Springs UD, and the O'Connor Utility District. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronnie. Congratulations. And
Hey, Ronnie, I have a question for you. How many other water utilities scored 100%?
I don't know. They're on a cycle, so I really don't know.
Is scoring 100% pretty? I mean, is it like?
We've done it one other time, with my recollection.
Well, still, despite I was just curious. You could have said. I was hoping you'd say, well, we're the only one in the whole state, and I'd have been even more. I would have been a little bit more proud than I am now. But yeah, thank you.
pretty sure the internet's had that we were the only ones in the whole state. So, yeah. All right. Item 5A, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on February 2nd, 2017. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
5B, consider on second and final reading ordinance O-170-101, rezoning from RS-20 single-family residential to LM light manufacturing, city-owned property identified as parcel 118.01 on tax map 65, located at 2111 Lee Seminary Road, and from CI commercial industrial mixed use to LM light manufacturing, property identified as parcel 118.02 on tax map 65, located at 2100 Highland Parks Boulevard. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, these two parcels are actually owned by the city and the county, and they're part of the Highlands Business Park. And we do have a new plat of the business park where these two parcels have now been combined, but this would rezone these properties from CI and RS-20 to LM, and the reason for the rezone is we have a prospect that's going to locate on these parcels, and it would fit much better under LM zone. We've had no calls since first reading.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Under item 6, the consent agenda, consider awarding bids for semi-annual paving, asphalt mix, milling, and mineral aggregate from the Public Works Department. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Item 7, new business. 7A, consider resolution R-170202, amending the Cookeville City Charter Private Acts of 1961, Private Chapter 223, relative to regulations of elections. Sponsor is Councilman Henry.
At this point, Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to offer this resolution for consideration for the council, and I believe your intention is to open up for public comment at this point.
Yes, sir. So we will open this up for public comment. If anyone would like to comment on this, you'll have up to 3 minutes to make comments about it before we consider it in a vote. And if you do, just come to the lectern, identify yourself, and share your comments about it. Either you can come to this side if you want. Both of them work, if you'd like.
Just trying to do where you pointed. I didn't want to go the wrong
Did I
place.
point over there? I'm used to pointing over there. Sorry.
I wish young Mr. Webb had given my speech. He did such a good job. I'm not sure I'll do that good. I wanted to just make the point that I think this is something that ought to be done for the city for the simple reason that you would get input and opportunity for people who contribute all the time to the city of Cookeville, both in time and money, to participate in the process. It's just patently un-American to tax people and then not give them an opportunity to participate. And I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you keep people out who don't live here. I'm talking about in Tennessee or that just have a piece of property. But I've been a part of a business and had a business in the city of Cookeville since 1971. And last year, my brother and I, through our business and our different properties, paid over $250,000 in city taxes, not business tax, not all the other taxes we pay, but just in property tax. And to have somebody who's not only paying taxes, but who's participating in the processes of the city, who give to city charities, who help out when the city needs it. And I'll just point one thing that we were asked to do by the city. We got a call one day that there was a business of not the best repute coming in down near our mall, and we were asked if we would buy it to keep others from putting in a porn shop there. And we did it. We didn't need it, wasn't a part of our plan, but we did it because we thought it was the right thing to do for our city. And I, like you and like others all throughout this community who participate but don't live inside the corporate limits, would like to have more of a say, because I think most of you have been to my office and say, would you vote for me? Well, I can't vote for you. But you also asked me if, can I contribute? Would I contribute to your election, which we typically try to do. And it's just, I think, in just a sense of fairness, if you would consider those things. And I don't know how's the best way to do it, but I do know it's figured out in Baxter, Monterey, Livingston, Crossville, all good. And you saw in the paper there are other cities in Tennessee. I think Franklin even has it. It's just a matter of being fair. If you're going to let people participate in paying the taxes, you ought to give them an opportunity to participate in who's running the government. Not run. You can't run if you don't live here. I get that. Not asking for that. But just vote for good people. And I've not been able to vote for any of you. And I'd like that opportunity if you could so give us that opportunity. I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay. All right. We will, now, is there a motion on the item on the floor?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Now discussion among the council.
Go ahead.
Okay. Just since I introduced it, just a couple of observations, Mr. Mayor, about the resolution. To the extent that we decide to do this, as Johnny's already pointed out, we will not be the voice in the wilderness. You look down the list and you see towns like Alcoa, Athens, Cleveland, Gatlinburg, Franklin, Columbia, Manchester, Maryville, Martin, Pulaski, Smithville, on and on and on. And in addition to our neighbors that Johnny pointed out, Crossville, Livingston, Smithville, Monterey, Allgood, and Baxter, all these have figured out ways to make it work. All these community leaders in all these towns have decided that it was at some point in time no longer right, no longer equitable, no longer fair to say to citizens, private residential citizens, or particularly if they own businesses, to say to them, we welcome your citizenship, we welcome the employees you hire, we welcome the employment rate that you drive up, we welcome the economy that you stimulate, we welcome the way that you support the community, the churches, the soccer teams, the baseball teams, the nonprofits. But they've decided it was not right to continue to say, but when it comes to voting, we're going to leave you on the outside looking in. All of these communities have decided that. And as has been pointed out and discussed among us, all these communities put in various kinds of safeguards depending on what seems like it will work in that community. This resolution provides for those safeguards. And those safeguards include that it must be 5,000 square feet. They must own the property at least 6 months before the election. And, maybe most importantly, they must vote absentee. They've got to go to the trouble to get an absentee ballot because this works best with their election commission to help to track it. Get an absentee ballot and vote absentee. And then when election day comes, they still got to go to their precinct if it's outside the city and vote for the county, the state, and the federal elections. They've still got to take that extra step. All these are safeguards that are built in. You know, I noticed, and I might be derelict if I didn't mention this, Mr. Mayor. I noticed, with all due respect to the editorial board at our local paper, who do a great job for our paper, one sentence in this says, and they take the opposite position from me on this yesterday, but they do make some good observations and ask some good questions, I think. We hope this debate is short and sweet and ends in a resounding no. Well, it's not going to be short because we've been talking about this for 20 years. It first came up in 1997, and councils on and off, while other communities have acted on a resolution like this, we've been talking about it. In my view, this is an idea whose time has come. However, and I'm reading another sentence in the editorial, however, an actual resident has more at stake. Really? Tell that to Johnny Stites, who paid $250,000 in taxes. Tell that to a lot of these gentlemen back here. Tell that to Jack Borden, whose family started a business in this community 100 years ago by his grandfather. Tell that to Glenn Hall or Jack Freeman, who messaged me just about a half hour ago apologizing for the fact that he couldn't be here, whose family has had a business in his community since 1942. Tell that to Millard Oakley, who has a bank here and gave to Tennessee Tech the Oakley STEM Center. Tell that to him, that he doesn't have a stake. Tell that to Thomas Land and tell that to all the small business owners on this side of town. Talk to them about stake. Talk to them about community. And finally, a sentence simply says this. It says, what's in this debate for Cookeville residents? Everything is in this for Cookeville residents. They'll benefit from the talent, the expertise, the money, the resources already bidding for, and the tax money. So it's good for everybody. And let me just wrap up my comments by simply saying this. This story, and as I say in church, I'll close with this. Sometimes, Ricky, I close about 4 times. But this time I'll just close once. Well, I moved here in 1970, early 70s, to go to school at Tech, and my grandfather put it in me to vote. You just didn't miss voting. Early voting was not an option then, and I knew I wouldn't get back home over to East Tennessee to vote on Election Day. I registered here. I like to think I was instrumental in helping Bob Petit become mayor of Cookeville back in those days, because I could vote. I was a student. I signed up here to vote. And guess what? If I'm a student today and I come to this community today, I can register to vote and I can vote in Cookeville, Tennessee if I choose to. But guess who can't vote? Johnny Stites can't vote. Jackie Borden can't vote. Glenn Hall can't vote. Jack Freeman, Millard Oakley, Thomas, all these gentlemen back here can't vote. But I could if I'm a Tech student. And I say more power to the Tech students if they decide to do that way. Government, as has been pointed out, should be about being fair and equitable and right, particularly at the local level. So for all of these reasons, I would encourage you gentlemen to join me in voting in the affirmative on this resolution.
Thank you, Councilman Henry. Anybody?
I'd like to
Councilman Woodford.
Dwight, like we had in the work session, this is a great country that we can express our opinions. We all were elected up here to represent the people of Cookeville. I'm going to read a brief statement. I do better writing notes than speaking off the cuff, and I like to be brief. I'm going to take a higher look at this 30,000-foot view, so to speak. Voting was predominantly been tied to a fixed residency in our history. Citizens are entitled to vote in the districts in which they live. One person, one vote. No taxation without representation was a slogan in the American colonists against their battles against the British colony. Once independence was achieved and the Constitution was ratified, the reverse of the slogan, no representation without taxation, became the norm in determining voter eligibility. The Constitution itself did not spell out who could or who could not vote. The Constitution initially left this to the states to determine who was qualified to vote. When the Constitution was drafted in 1787, all 13 states had economic qualifications for voting. Then in the mid-1800s, there was a more populous vote where it became all free white men could vote. It was only until the 1920s that women could vote, and on and on. I'm not going to go into all that detail. Does economic stake in a particular community, in this case the city of Cookeville, entitle people to have a say in local affairs? There are philosophical disagreements as to what justifies suffrage, as well as a classist undertones as property owners assert their right to intercede in places they do not reside. I think Cookeville, the people that want to vote in Cookeville should reside in Cookeville. Just the opposite of what you recommend, but I respect your opinion. I don't subscribe to the paper anymore. I didn't know what the editorial say, but I'm going to agree with what the Herald Citizen said, that Cookeville, if you're going to vote in Cookeville, you need to reside in the city limits. Thank you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, y'all have anything?
Why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I've been looking at this since it was brought up in the work session, and I've Googled stuff here in Tennessee, and and you can correct me on this. How many cities have this already?
We know there's 41 private act cities that, out of 212, that allow non-resident property owner voting, 41.
So it's about 20%, roughly, have this. And I've Googled non-resident voting in Tennessee, and everybody's got something different. It's not a unique thing. So I asked you at the work session, how many voters would this add? It was because of zip codes and everything, and we can't determine. It could be anywhere from 1,500 to about 4,000 if it was 1,000 square feet.
Well,
we were talking about that at that time.
If you're just looking, let me clarify that. If we're just looking at, in our GIS system, at all properties within the city of Cookeville, and then you try to sort through those, the only thing we could determine is how many of those properties, the mailing addresses for those tax notices, go what we think outside the city of Cookeville. So we know there's 4,100 of those. Then you break it down a little more, we get down to 1,500 that are definitely mailed somewhere outside the city of Cookeville zip code. But from that, we don't know if those are going to mortgage companies and the folks still actually live in the city of Cookeville. So I really don't know. We have no idea
Right.
how many tracts of land we're talking about.
Right. And in the last city election, we had approximately 5,000 people that voted. So I'm wondering, 1,500 to 2,000 or 3,000 people added to the voting rolls, what impact is going to be, and that would not dilute, but add to the voters 30, 40, 50% as much new voters potentially. So that is concerning, since it hadn't come up for a long time, in '97, before I was on the council for the first time. And the editorial from the Herald Citizen, was succinct, and I thought it had a lot of good ideas. And I've talked to people who live in Cookeville. I've also talked to people who live outside of Cookeville but own property here. And everybody's got a strong opinion. Some people said, if we allow people who live outside of Cookeville to vote, why can't, if we own property in, say, Jackson County or Overton County, why can't we vote in those elections? So some of the people have strong opinions both ways. So it's really, and so because of all this voting, my thoughts are just leave it like it is, leave it alone, and not get into something strange, because adding at least 1,500 potential new voters it really adds a lot of people to the election. And I don't know what it would be if it were 5,000. It might be less, but it's still a lot of people to add to the voting pool. So that's my thoughts right now.
Well, again, just let me clarify that. I can't tell you that it is 1,500. I have no idea how many properties we're actually talking about.
Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This has been a great discussion, because what's more precious, and Councilman Henry expressed that quite eloquently, about what's more precious than the opportunity to vote. I absolutely hold that in high regard. And just for your information, Mr. Woodford, Councilman Woodford, and I, we actually discussed this in our previous term prior to this term, and one of the reasons, well, we actually discussed this, and let me just kind of make a kind of a blanket statement here. This is, which for a guy that's been around for a long time working in local government, local government is kind of a boots on the ground kind of institution. We make laws and rules and ordinances, and just kind of we do it because it's got to work. It's got to work, and it's got to be boots on the ground. So here I am sitting here, one man, one woman, one vote, and versus just let's make this work. We don't have the ability to have a whole lot of ideology, I guess, political ideology when it comes to a boots on the ground government. Now that said, when we looked at this previously, and I spent a lot of time, I read every city's charter that basically had this going on here. Regardless of what we do, okay, the pro is if we pass this, we're going to have a number of people that have that opportunity to vote, that precious opportunity to vote. But every opportunity, the con of this is that this also has the potential for fraud and abuse, okay, and it also has the potential for lawsuits of exclusion, okay. If we're going to do 5,000 feet, why can't you do 1,000 feet? What about the business owner that has 1,000 feet? Well, you're excluding me. I should have the right to vote. So it gets kind of complicated. I'm going to vote for this. I'll just state right now, with this conversation, I'm going to vote for this. But we looked at this previously, and the fraud and abuse and the lawsuits of exclusion really concerned us. But I just feel like it's so important. It's so important because the only people that came up to me in discussing this were the ones that said, I really would like the opportunity to vote. It's as Mr. Stites put so eloquently also. Let me just give you a heads up, and I mentioned this just previously. I mentioned this. I wasn't able to come to the work session, but originally this was set up as the limit was 1,000 square feet of property ownership, which the reason why that was drawn was because of that. That was the smallest legitimate piece of property that people would have here. So why did we change it to 5,000? I don't know, and that's fine. I wasn't here at the work session to be able to have that discussion, but I have some concerns about that. So, if it would be appropriate, I'd like to make an amendment to the resolution, Mr. Mayor.
You can.
I'd like to make an amendment that instead of it being property must not be less than 5,000 square foot tract, I'd like to make an amendment that the property must not be less than 1,000 square foot tract.
All right.
And I make that.
There's a motion. Is there a second to that amendment? Okay, no second. That amendment will die.
So that's really all the business I had to do. So thank you, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor,
sir.
for the opportunity to discuss this.
I feel like I've had numerous conversations, and the folks that have talked to me, this is something that they definitely support. And I think this is a business issue. It's definitely a small business issue. That's the lifeblood of any city, is the people that invest. Obviously, everybody has a right to vote, but the people that invest in our community and make our community better by hiring people and doing all those things. And this really kind of solidifies that, because so many business owners sometimes choose to live outside, but they invest so much and they spend so much in our community. I had some concerns about the safeguards, and I think within this resolution as it's written, it has some safeguards built into that. One of them being Tennessee only. You do have to vote in for the state assembly or state assembly election, so that gives that safeguard that must be. And there's no if you own multiple parcels, you still only get one vote. That was another safeguard we built into it. As it's been talked about, there's 41 cities. I think most interesting, Knoxville does this. Knoxville has 185,000 people population. They had 250 people that took advantage of this in Knoxville. So I hate that we don't know the number of parcels and what that would actually equate to, but I have a feeling it's much, much smaller than we think. Not only that, the extra steps, you have to be a very motivated person, really have a desire to see something happen to do this, because you do have to vote absentee, and you have to do it at a special time, and all the things that you have to jump through to do this. So it will be somebody that's motivated and that desires to have a part in our community. And so I think I think it is something that we should do. I know it was looked at 20 years ago, and so I am in support of it. Anybody else have any other comments before we vote? Yes, sir.
Just briefly, Mayor, in respect to Councilman Woodford and Councilman Womack, and of course they know I feel this way, no matter how the votes come down, it doesn't change how I feel about them as councilmen, as people, as friends. People see things different. Jim and I obviously philosophically on this one. As it relates to Councilman Womack's comments, to me, it's the concept. To me, it's a matter of principle. To me, it's about conscience. And it's secondary to me whether it brings in one new voter or 1,000 new voters, because they bought their ticket to come in when they bought property and they started paying taxes on that property. And when they sell that property, they sell their stock in the city so they don't vote anymore. So we are and we've talked about this a good deal off and on as a community, and we 5 sitting here are the only ones, at least at this point in time, who have the potential to fix this problem. And I just hope we can get it fixed tonight.
Thank you. Is there any other comments? Just a point of order. Normally, it takes 3 votes. We have 5, so it takes 3 votes to pass it. While that's still true, on a charter change, you have to have 2/3 or 4 votes to pass this. So when we vote tonight, we made this as, there's no point in sending this to the state legislature to ratify this if it's going to come back and not pass. So for this to go forward tonight, we've all agreed that it has to have 4 votes, 2/3, so that when it goes to state legislature and it comes back, we know it's going to happen. There's no point in doing for them to pass it down there and then come back here and fail. So,
They'd be mad.
What?
They'd be mad.
Yeah. So just any other comments or questions?
Sorry.
Is that a voter?
Yeah, it's a voter. Vote yes.
One final comment.
Already voting absentee, huh?
Okay, all right, so
I apologize.
everybody
I'm
understands the
sorry.
motion. The motion is to approve the resolution. There was a motion and a second. We'll be voting on the resolution now, so please vote.
3 yes, 2 no, motion fails.
Okay.
All right.
So, like I said, under that, even though it's an affirmative vote, it actually fails because it would not be, it takes 2/3 to change the charter. So, all right. 7B, consider authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with the Bank of Putnam County for the exchange of properties relative to the realignment of West Stevens Street and Buffalo Valley Road, and to execute any and all deeds necessary for this exchange. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, this agreement specifies that the Bank of Putnam County will convey to the city of Cookeville approximately .07 acres of property and a permanent slope easement containing approximately .03 acres to be used as right-of-way and easements for the realignment of West Stevens and Buffalo Valley. That was the agreement. This is the location of the property. In exchange, the city of Cookeville would convey to the Bank of Putnam County approximately .05 acres of property no longer needed as right-of-way. The agreement specifies that the conveyance of the city property would not occur until the completion of the construction project. So the city would be acquiring this property in here from the bank, and then the city, once this project is completed, would deed back to the bank this section of property. The planning department requests that the city council authorize the city manager to enter into the agreement with the Bank of Putnam County for the exchange of properties relative to the realignment of West Stevens Street and Buffalo Valley Road, and to authorize him to execute any deeds necessary to facilitate this exchange.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, consider repealing ordinance 0150617, rezoning property at 750 Whitson Avenue from RS-15 single-family residential to PRD planning residential development due to failure to comply with the zoning code. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, ordinance 150517, which rezoned the property on Whitson Avenue, or from RS-15 to PRD, was adopted in July of 2015. We're familiar with this property. It's the end of Whitson here, back just west of South Maple Avenue. The plan for this development was for a 41-unit townhouse development. The provisions for PRD zoning are specified in our zoning code. The section of the zoning code requires that you must have a final PRD plan submitted to the planning department and the planning commission within 18 months after the effective date of the rezoning is approved by the city council. In this case, we've not received a final PRD plan. By the provisions of the zoning code, when you don't submit this within 18 months, the rezoning is repealed. But to further clarify this and to provide a permanent record that the rezoning has been repealed, the planning department requests that the council officially repeal ordinance 150617.
Thank you. Is there a motion to repeal?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7D, consider approval of ESRI Enterprise License Agreement for all city departments. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, our current 3-year enterprise license agreement with Esri expires in June. This agreement provides our GIS users access to Esri licensed software and maintenance on the software for the term of the agreement. Esri has offered a new 3-year agreement at the same price as our original 2011 contract. This cost us $35,000 annually, which would be divided amongst the 3 utilities, with the utilities paying $7,500 each and the general department paying $12,500. The total cost for the 3-year agreement is $107,250. This includes a annual $750 charge for ArcPad license agreement. Planning Department requests your approval of the new 3-year enterprise license agreement with Esri.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you.
7E, consider rejecting proposal received on 1/30/17 for the rights to lease 2 billboards and 3 billboard locations in the Highlands Business Park. Mr. Davidson.
Mayor and council members, there's been, over the years, some various discussions about the possibility of billboards out in the Highlands Business Park along the interstate right-of-way and what the value is to those billboards. Should the city, county choose to sell easements and/or lease locations for potential billboards out there. The map on the screen depicts 3 potential locations inside the business park where billboards could be situated. Requested proposals in January, opened those January 30th. We received 1 proposal from a company, local company, and they essentially the proposal was to lease 2 of the locations for $1,200 per year per location. And in addition to the lease, the city owns the rights to 2 billboards, and we included that in the proposal as well to see what the value would be for those rights to those billboards. And the proposal was $200 per year for that right. So a total per 2 locations anyway, $1,200 per location plus $200 for the right, $1,400 essentially per locations, or $2,800 a year. The value is really hindered by all the trees along the interstate right-of-way. The visibility is reduced significantly because of all the trees. There's trouble to get power. It's difficult to get power to location 1 on the map as well, so that also hinders the value of these. So I'm asking council to reject the proposal. We'll just study it further. I'm not really sure what to do. The trees, again, I don't know what the cost would be to get trees removed on the city side. State, it'd be even more difficult to get trees removed on the state right or interstate right of way. So I'm just seeking council to reject the entire proposal, and then we'll just study it further.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second to reject. Any discussion?
I know this is part of the business park. We're 50% owners with the county. One of the things that came up in the Cookeville Envision under the quality of life was the number 1 was restricting number of signs and billboards. Would this be something we could discuss in the future? Because we have a cap now, I think, is it 121 in the city, to lower it by 2? Because there is cost involved in this, and we don't want to. It's an opportunity we could lower the cap. I just want to bring that up right now. So I know we can't do it because we're only 50% owners of this. But I'd like to probably ask Mike if he'd approach the county, see if they'd entertain that.
Well, theoretically, we are. We are holding the rights to it, and as long as we do nothing with the rights, then it is lowered.
Oh, it is?
It's, they can't, the rights can't be used unless we allow the rights to be used, so theoretically, we are lowering the cap. If we never use the rights, we've lowered it.
Our rights may expire at some point in the future, so you
Correct.
eventually need to take some action one
Correct.
way or another, but not anytime soon.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7F, consider approval of 2 supplements to the Reagan Smith contract for construction engineering inspection services for the Rails with Trails project. Mr. Brown.
Mayor and Council, Reagan Smith is an engineering firm that was performed the construction engineering inspection for the Rails with Trails project. And during the course of the project, they incurred extra costs, and they requested 2 supplements. The first one deals with the actual construction of the trail. There were several factors that caused this. I'd like to go over a few of them. The first one is after the project started, the railroad required the city to install chain link fence instead of the bushes that we had planned to use as a barrier. So we had to determine where the fence would need to go and find alternate locations for all the shrubs that were going in. We had several redesigns in the field due to field conditions. There were some wetlands that were located, some grades changed. There were several drainage modifications that we ran into. The railroad had several drainage structures that had deteriorated that we had to work with the railroad to come up with a design to repair. The weather was somewhat of a factor in that. We also had several areas that needed to be undercut that wasn't anticipated at the length of the project. And although the project did come in within the contract time, it anticipated it being finished earlier than that, which caused the CEI inspector to be on the site more. Toward the end of the project, in order to try to catch up from these delays, they had several crews working all over the trail. And as part of the TDOT requirements for everything to be inspected, some of the time we had to have several inspectors on the job to perform everything that TDOT required. The supplement they were requesting for we're calling the phase 1 during the construction. They're requesting $54,765.89. The original contract, CEA contract, was $229,487.37. The construction contract was a little over $1.8 million. So if you add the supplement to that, they're still at 15.6% of the construction cost, which normally the CEI cost is about 15 to 20% of it. The second supplement request is for the establishment of the shrubs. The shrubs were not planted toward the end of the project, and TDOT requires an establishment period before they will reimburse you for those. So TDOT has extended the project to November 1st, 2017. And the second supplement will cover the inspection, any paperwork or correspondence we have to do with TDOT. Also, a project of this size is very frequently audited by the Federal Highway Administration. If we are audited, this supplement will cover any participation that Reagan Smith would have to do. If we don't get audited, this supplement, we wouldn't pay all of this. The Phase 2 supplement request is for $8,901.96, which brings the total CEI contract, if you add both supplements, to $292,155.22, which makes it 16.1% of the total construction cost. So the total, if you just add the supplement costs, those totals are $63,667.85. Our Trails grant will pay for 80% of that, so the government's are responsible for 20% of that, which is $12,733.57, which would be split among the 3 governments, which would be $4,244.53. The Trails budget already has money in there allocated that we can, not allocated for this, but it is in the budget already, so we won't have to find any more money to come up with this. So I would recommend approving their supplement request.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? Yes, Councilman Henry.
Greg, help me understand. So at the end of the day, how much more is the city out of pocket than we were to have been originally?
$4,244.53.
Okay. Okay.
But we do have money that it's already been assigned to this contract that was already budgeted for this. We're not going to have to find money somewhere else and put it in the trail budget. It's already there.
Okay.
For the full amount of $12,000.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the council? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, yeah, thank you, Greg, for your work on this, and everybody knows all the project that we've done around here for all these years. It's pretty part of doing business that overages and et cetera happen. But especially for this one, and sometimes I get pretty fired up when we get on overages, but for this one, it's money well spent. I mean, the usage of this park and how it's presented an identity for Cookeville, I think it's very well worth it, and again, money well spent. So,
Couple of questions. The other governments, have they voted on this yet?
All Good has, and I think the committee, whatever committee met last Monday, and I think the county commission will meet on it Monday.
Okay.
And then that will be all three.
And we have talked about having markers or mile markers, something painted possibly on the pavement. Will this be included in this, or this is simply for what was been done now in the planting?
No, this is just inspection services. We do have mile marker signs on the trail. They're not painted, but there are signs.
Yeah. In relation to that, several people have talked about this. We need to get painted on the pavement so that if there were an emergency, I know there's a mile 1, there's a mile 2, but if there's an emergency between mile 2 and 3, and you're on this trail and all you see is the back of buildings, somebody needs to be able to say, I'm at 2.3, there's a heart attack or whatever, so that emergency services get there.
We've talked about that, and we'll probably try to do that in-house.
Okay.
This is just for inspection services.
All right.
But we've done some work after the contract was done as far as painting areas to try to make the trail more obvious when it's in the.
I'd appreciate if you talk to, or do whatever we need to do to kind of.
We can do that.
Get that done for safety. I've had several, even some first responders talk about it. That needs to be done. Okay, thanks. Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you.
7G, consider authorizing the city manager to enter into an engineering contract, Amendment 1 for the Royal Oak Subdivision Sewer Project. Mr. Kelly.
Mayor and council, I'm seeking approval for the city manager to enter into an engineering contract amendment number 1 with CTI Engineering. We're in the middle of the design process on that Royal Oak subdivision project, and an individual that out on Miller Drive approached our department requesting that we extend that project on down Highway 70 to include the Miller Road. The extension would provide sewer service to an additional 22 parcels and add approximately 2,400 feet and associated appurtenances to the current design. We believe it will require an additional 5 weeks onto the construction project when it's bid and under construction. Negotiated a contract amendment with CTI to accomplish this work, and it will require adding an additional $12,500 to the existing contract. This is shown up on the board. The area in question, it doesn't come out well on here, but current projects, I think on your handout probably you can see it better than you can see it on the screen. But the area we're talking about adding is this area here. There's some commercial property there. There was a business there that had some storm damage. They wanted to expand and couldn't expand back without sewer service. And so they approached us, and we think it's a good addition to the project and would recommend your approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
So, Ronnie, total cost is just only $12,000. Is that what I heard?
$12,500.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion
Thank you. 7H, consider declaring a surplus vehicles and miscellaneous items from various departments. Kathy McLean.
Okay, Councilman and Mayor, we have different lists on the slideshow. We have the police department, customer service, electric and gas departments, miscellaneous items, vehicles, trucks, just old equipment that we need to dispose of, sell, or whatever the court order requests for us to do to dispose of certain things. And I request your approval.
Okay, will this be through Gov Deals?
Yes, sir.
Through Gov Deals, okay. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion is second. Any discussion? We talked about the bicycles.
Yeah,
Where are we at on the bicycles, all these bicycles that are on here?
Yeah, we're going to look through the bicycles, figure out what might be actually repairable, usable, and figure out a way to dispose of those. Matter of fact, the court order on those, they have to be disposed of by April 4th. So we'll work through that process as quickly as possible. There may be some nonprofits that we could work through.
Alternative uses for them?
And we'll
Okay.
try to work, and city attorney and I have talked
Okay.
about that.
Very good. All right, and we got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7I, consider awarding bid for in-car MCT devices and MCT components. Chief Evans.
Mayor and council, we solicited bids for mobile communication terminals. As you can see here by the bid tab, we've received 2 bidders. Bright Computers is the lowest bidder meeting specifications for the entire system, which was $3,033. Our plan is to buy 30 of the complete systems at a total cost for $90,990, and also 29 docking stations. Some months ago, you all approved the purchase of the mounts. So these docking stations is one of the 3 components that essentially go onto the existing mounts that we have, and then those docking stations then accommodate the new computers that we're buying with a complete system. Our funding source is a couple of grants, as you see up there, that we got approved earlier in the year, or maybe last year on the THSO grant. The remainder of the project will be funded through some budgeted capital and through the drug fund. It will require a budget amendment. Just request your approval for the purchase and also approving Bright Computers as a low bidder meeting specifications.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All vote.
5 yes votes, motion carries.
All right, at this time, that concludes the agenda portion. We have time if any citizens would like to address the council on non-agenda items. You have up to 3 minutes to do that. Do we have anyone that would like to? Okay. Item 9, we have 9A, hold a public hearing on the annual progress report on the plans of services for the following annexation areas: Old Bridge Road, Falling Water River, Buck Mountain Road, Dry Valley Road, East Highway 70 North, Interstate 40, West Cookeville, Interstate 40, Shagrag Road, Rebecca Place, Bunker Hill Road, Lovelady Road, Free Hill Road, North Washington Avenue, South Willow Avenue, Bennett Road Extension, Old Stewart Road, and the Hall Bennett Road. Mr. Mills.
Mayor and council members, I know how much everybody looks forward to this. It's an exciting time of the year. But since 1998, we've been required to do an annual report on how we've implemented our plans of services. Since the law was established, we've annexed 21 areas, which are depicted on the screen, which required the completions of plans of services. We now have 12 areas remaining for which we have to still complete some services. We recently published a report in the Herald Citizen, and the report provides as follows. For the Old Bridge Road, Falling Water River area, the only thing that remains to be completed there are sewer service. We did do in 2015 an extension that served 111 parcels. In the Buck Mountain Dry Valley Road, the only service remaining there to be completed is sewer service. We did complete all our electric service requirements in this past year. In the East Highway 70, Interstate 40 area, all services have been provided with the exception of sewer. We have completed 2 phases of sewer, which will cover 165 parcels. In the West Cookeville Interstate 40 area, all services have been provided with the exception of water service, sanitary sewer, street lighting, and electric service. Water service will depend on acquiring the service area from a portion of it from Double Springs Utility District. Some significant progress has been made in this. A verbal agreement was reached this past year with the utility district so that we could acquire the water service area north of I-40. South of I-40, 33 water customers have been acquired. Electric service is expected to be completed once the interchange project is completed. In the Shagrag Road area, everything's been completed with the exception of sewer. In the Rebecca Place, Bunker Hill Road area, everything's been completed with the exception of sewer. The plan of service for this area does specify that sewer has to be completed within 20 years after the effective date of annexation. We have extended sewer to 2 people in this area. The Bunker Hill Road, Lovelady Road area, all services have been completed with the exception of sewer. The plan of services specifies that sewer will be provided within 20 years after the effective date of annexation. Both of these last two areas were annexed in 2007, so we still have some years to complete that in compliance with the plan of services. The Free Hill Road area, only thing remaining is sewer. The plan of services specifies that has to be done within 25 years after the effective date of annexation. South Willow Avenue area, the only thing that remains to be completed is sewer. The Bennett Road extension area, all services have been provided as specified with the exception of water service and sanitary sewer. An agreement similar to the previous, or to the I-40 West Cookeville annexation, a verbal agreement with Double Springs has been reached. Hopefully that can be completed during the next several months to provide water to the customers in this area. Sewer will be provided based on the same principles that we use for the extensions elsewhere within the city. We did extend a sewer line under I-40, which is required to provide service north of Interstate 40 in 2016. The Old Stewart Road area, all services with the exception of sewer and street lights have been provided. The electric department is working with Upper Cumberland for the completion of the installation of street lighting, which we expected to be during this coming year. And lastly, for the Hall Bennett Road area, all services with the exception of sewer and street lights have been provided. Electric is still trying to work with Upper Cumberland so that we'll be able to provide street lighting in that area. And that is the report for planning services for this past year.
Thank you. 9B, receive city financial report for July 1st through 12/31/16.
Good evening, council members. This is the other fun thing that we look forward to every year. What you have before you tonight is the budget to actual financials for all of our funds as of December 31st, halfway through our fiscal year. I'm just going to highlight a few things for you, and then if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them, but I'm not going to go through each one of them line by line. But the general fund, which is our primary operating fund, let's see, whoops, that's not what I wanted to hit, there we go. We budgeted total revenue of $25,853,000, you can see there. The actual revenue that we've collected through December 31st is $13,073,000. So we're at 57.57% of our revenue collected through half the year. As you know, our two primary largest revenue items are sales tax and property tax. Sales tax, and Mike keeps you up to date, I think, on a monthly basis with that, so you're probably aware. Our sales tax, we budgeted $12,759,000, and at December 31st, we collected $6,291,000 of that, so we're running a little bit behind where we projected to be. We're only at 49.31% of budget. And then the other large revenue item is our property taxes, and that property tax item up there, we budgeted $5.9 million. We collected $2.7 million. So we're at 45.65% of the budget, but that line item includes delinquent taxes also. On current taxes, our citizens pay those starting October through February 28th. And as you can imagine, we collect 50% of the current taxes in the month of February. So through December 31st, we've collected 41.6% of the tax aggregate for 2016 taxes, and that's pretty comparable to where we've been in prior years. So. Then on the expenditure side for the general fund, we budgeted operating expenditures, let me get the thing there, of $20,020,562, and as of December 31st, we've spent $11,780,000 on operating, or 47% of the budget, and our capital expenditures are at 38% of the budget at $397,791 of the $1,049,000 we budgeted. And really, we haven't even really spent a lot on capital. Out of that $397,000 is the Ridgedale Road project, which was actually a prior year project that got carried into this year. So we will have a budget amendment when we bring budget amendments probably in May for that. So we've actually even spent less in our capital that we budgeted. So. And I'm going to jump ahead to the solid waste fund. As you know, this is a fund that we've talked to you about in the past that we've had some concerns because there's not been enough revenue generated to sustain a capital replacement program, i.e. by garbage trucks occasionally. So what we did this year is we allocated 4 cents of the property tax to this fund, and we also did a 10% across the board increase in commercial rates, if you recall. So as of December 31st, you can see we've got some property tax going in there. We're at 48% of what we budgeted. And the charges for services are at 50%, and that 10% fee increase has been implemented for all the routes. So as of December 31st, that has been fully implemented. And you can see in the expenditures in this fund, the operating expenditures are at 49.5% of budget. Residential collections a little high, it's at 55% because we had a significant repair on a garbage truck. Greg, was that a sidearm? We had to replace an arm. Yeah, it was like $35,000 that we approved as an emergency repair back in September, I think. So we've got more revenue going into this fund, and if you look in the capital expenditures too, we spent $293,000. We did budget 1 new garbage truck. It was a front loader, and we did purchase that as of December 31st, so that's been reflected in there. And you can see we still, total revenue is $953,000, and operating expenses are $739,000, so we've got a lot more revenue going in there, and hopefully we plan on budgeting another garbage truck next year, and we should be able to sustain that. And hopefully as we start replacing these garbage trucks, the large repairs and maintenance costs on some of these older trucks will start going down. So that's kind of an update on that fund. In these other funds, I've got nothing really unusual with them that I want to point out, so I'm just going to jump to another one here, unless you have questions or you want to talk about the utilities or some of them, but let's see. There it is. The Employee Insurance Fund. This is another fund that we've had concerns about and we've talked to you a lot about over the past couple years. As of December 31st, the revenue, which is basically premiums that come from the city and our employees that go into there, was $2.3 million, or 50% of our budget. And expenditures through December 31st are $2.5 million, or 50% of the budget there. Looking at the 2017 budget, we actually budgeted a deficit of $326,000. The last 2 years we've ended the year in a deficit position. Last year we ended up taking $216,000 out of fund balance, and the year before $265,000. So we had budgeted anticipating taking out $326,000 this year. But as you know, we tried to make changes to the plan, and those aren't reflected here because those changes were effective January 1st. Because our actual plan year for our employees is January 1st through December 31st. So as of December 31st right now, we're running a deficit of $176,000. And that's an improvement from November. Actually, December's claims were less than last December. Claims for the 6 months from last July to this July have improved pretty significantly. And just looking ahead to January, because we're already in February, I can tell you January's claims are a lot less than last January claims. So I expect that deficit at the end of January to even be less. So hopefully, we're making some changes and, things kind of even out a little bit in that fund.
Brenda, what do you attribute those decreases from? Do you think it's from the initiatives that the health committee instituted? Do you think that's it, Gail? I mean, I'm hoping it's a trend. Our trend has
Positive
been
trend.
Our trend has been to budget a deficit. Okay, so I'm just curious if you think if you have any rhyme or reason to that number.
Not really. This fund, we are self-insured.
Mm-hmm.
So this fund is basically risk management, okay?
Yeah.
We try to put enough premiums and money into there to pay, what plan expenses they have, mostly claims. And really, you don't know what those claims are going to be. You could have a bad year, and last year we had 2 people that exceeded our aggregate stop loss last year because they had substantial claims. So you just don't know what's down the road. We try to budget and set our premiums at what Blue Cross Blue Shield recommends. They do their fancy analysis of, here's what claims have been, and they project out, and they give you their best guess. And this year we did use the premiums that they recommended. We gave the employees more options, and basically the city's paying in more as of January 1st, and some of the employees are paying in more. even the ones that took the high deductible plan, they may not be paying any more premiums, but they're now responsible for more of their health care costs. So we kind of shared the pain, you know, distributed the pain kind of with everybody. So there is no easy answer. I mean, I think the city has done, our health committee has done stuff to, it's driven by claims. What do you do to reduce claims? We need a healthier workforce. So we have a Get Fit program. We have a wellness program. We even tried to tie premiums to our wellness so that they would participate in our wellness program and kind of catch some health issues that somebody has before they become a large claim. So we monitor it on a monthly basis and try to keep our eyes on it. Because like I said, it's constantly
You're saying we just need
moving.
to cross our fingers that it keeps happening
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah. So, well, those are the couple of the funds that, you know, I wanted to highlight to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions on any of the other ones that you have there, but you're welcome to look at them and, you know, call me or if you have any other questions on any of them.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Appreciate it. Any comments from the council? All right, we are adjourned.